Did you know that nearly 1 in 5 young adults in the United States experience a mental health disorder each year? That's a staggering statistic that many people might not even be aware of. It's time we shed some light on this issue. Welcome back to Mental Health Mentor. Today is World Mental Health Day, and the World Health Organization, alongside other platforms, is uniting with partners to highlight the vital connection between mental health and work. Safe, healthy working environments can act as a protective factor for mental health. Unhealthy conditions including stigma, discrimination, and exposure to risks like harassment and other poor working conditions can pose significant risks affecting mental health, overall quality of life, and consequently participation or productivity at work. With 60% of the global population at work, urgent action is needed to ensure work prevents risks to mental health and protects and supports mental health at work. Stick around because what we're going to uncover will definitely surprise you. Now let's talk about the real challenges people face when it comes to mental health. First up, there's stigma. Many people still think that mental health issues are a sign of weakness, which can prevent folks from seeking help. Then there's the issue of resources. Many communities lack access to mental health services, making it tough for those who need support. Finally, misinformation is everywhere. It's easy to believe myths about mental health that can actually do more harm than good. All of these factors create a massive barrier for individuals struggling with their mental health. Let's unpack some of the common misconceptions about mental health. For instance, a lot of people think that if you can't see it, it isn't real. But mental health conditions can be just as debilitating as physical illnesses. This kind of thinking discourages individuals from opening up and seeking help, which is incredibly damaging. Not to mention, when society as a whole buys into these misconceptions, it fosters an environment where those suffering feel isolated and unsupported. It's time we challenge these beliefs and start understanding mental health for what it truly is. Now here comes the real eye-opener. Did you know that the majority of mental health disorders develop by the age of 24? That's right. This means that many of the young adults you see around you could be grappling with something they can't even fully understand themselves. Imagine the pressure they're under. This insight transforms the way we should view mental health discussions and emphasizes the need for early intervention. It's not just about recognizing the signs, it's about fostering an environment where open conversations can take place without fear of judgment. Risks to mental health at work. At work, risks to mental health, also called psychosocial risks, may be related to job content or work schedule, specific characteristics of the workplace or opportunities for career development, among other things. Risks to mental health at work can include underuse of skills or being underskilled for work, excessive workloads or work pace, understaffing, long, unsocial or inflexible hours, lack of control over job design or workload, unsafe or poor physical working conditions, organizational culture that enables negative behaviors, limited support from colleagues or authoritarian supervision, violence, harassment or bullying, discrimination and exclusion, unclear job role, under or over promotion, job insecurity, inadequate pay, or poor investment in career development, and conflicting home work demands. More than half the global workforce works in the informal economy, where there is no regulatory protection for health and safety. These workers often operate in unsafe working environments, work long hours, have little or no access to social or financial protections, and face discrimination, all of which can undermine mental health. Although psychosocial risks can be found in all sectors, some workers are more likely to be exposed to them than others because of what they do or where and how they work. Health, humanitarian, or emergency workers often have jobs that carry an elevated risk of exposure to adverse events, which can negatively impact mental health. Economic recessions or humanitarian and public health emergencies elicit risks such as job loss, financial instability, reduced employment opportunities, or increased unemployment. Work can be a setting that amplifies wider issues that negatively affect mental health, including discrimination and inequality based on factors such as race, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, social origin, migrant status, religion, or age. People with severe mental health conditions are more likely to be excluded from employment, and when in employment, they are more likely to experience inequality at work. Being out of work also poses a risk to mental health. unemployment, job and financial insecurity, and recent job loss are risk factors for suicide attempts. Action for mental health at work. Government, employers, the organizations which represent workers and employers, and other stakeholders responsible for workers' health and safety can help to improve mental health at work through action to prevent work-related mental health conditions by preventing the risks to mental health at work, protect and promote mental health at work, support workers with mental health conditions to participate and thrive in work, and create an enabling environment for change. Action to address mental health at work should be done with the meaningful involvement of workers and their representatives, and persons with lived experience of mental health conditions. Prevent work-related mental health conditions. Preventing mental health conditions at work is about, well, managing psychosocial risks in the workplace. The World Health Organization recommends that employers do this by implementing organizational interventions that directly target working conditions and environments. Organizational interventions are those that assess and then mitigate, modify, or remove workplace risks to mental health. These interventions include, for example, providing flexible working arrangements or implementing frameworks to deal with violence and harassment at work. Protect and promote mental health at work. Protecting and promoting mental health at work is about strengthening capacities to recognize and act on mental health conditions at work, particularly for persons responsible for the supervision of others, such as managers. To protect mental health, who recommends? Manager training for mental health, which helps managers recognize and respond to supervisees experiencing emotional distress, builds interpersonal skills like open communication and active listening, and fosters better understanding of how job stressors affect mental health and can be managed. Training for workers in mental health literacy and awareness, to improve knowledge of mental health and reduce stigma against mental health conditions at work, and interventions for individuals to build skills to manage stress and reduce mental health symptoms, including psychosocial interventions and opportunities for leisure-based physical activity. Support people with mental health conditions to participate in and thrive at work. People living with mental health conditions have a right to participate in work fully and fairly. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities provides an international agreement for promoting the rights of people with disabilities, including psychosocial disabilities, at work. WHO recommends 3 interventions to support people with mental health conditions to gain, sustain, and participate in work. Reasonable accommodations at work adapt working environments to the capacities, needs, and preferences of a worker with a mental health condition. They may include giving individual workers flexible working hours, extra time to complete tasks, modified assignments to reduce stress, time off for health appointments, or regular supportive meetings with supervisors. Return-to-work programs combine work-directed care like reasonable accommodations or phased re-entry to work, with ongoing clinical care to support workers in meaningfully returning to work after an absence associated with mental health conditions, while also reducing mental health symptoms. Supported employment initiatives help people with severe mental health conditions to get into paid work and maintain their time on work through continuing to provide mental health and vocational support. Create an enabling environment for change. Both governments and employers, in consultation with key stakeholders, can help improve mental health at work by creating an environment for change. In practice, this means strengthening leadership and commitment to mental health at work, for example, by integrating mental health at work into relevant policies. Investment of sufficient funds and resources, for example, by establishing dedicated budgets for actions to improve mental health at work and making mental health and employment services available to lower-resourced enterprises. Rights to participate in work, for example, by aligning employment laws and regulations with international human rights instruments and implementing non-discrimination policies at work. Integration of mental health at work across sectors, for example, by embedding mental health into existing systems for occupational safety and health. Participation of workers in decision-making, for example, by holding meaningful and timely consultations with workers, their representatives, and people with lived experience of mental health conditions. Evidence on psychosocial risks and effectiveness of interventions, for example, by ensuring that all guidance and action on mental health at work is based on the latest evidence. Compliance with laws, regulations, and recommendations, for example, by integrating mental health into the responsibilities of national labor inspectorates and other compliance mechanisms. To wrap things up, we've covered some pretty important points today. We've looked at the challenges surrounding mental health, debunked some myths, and revealed a shocking truth that puts things into perspective. Understanding mental health is crucial, not just for those struggling, but for all of us. We need to support one another and create a community where everyone feels safe to express their feelings. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced challenges with mental health? Or do you know someone who has? Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and check out our other video on mental health awareness. Let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for watching and take care of yourselves.